closing deals to opening minds. This is the Mr. D podcast. I'm Omar Andreasen, and we're about to get real about real estate, success, and the grit that it takes to build your best life. Let's dive on in. Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of the Mr. Deed podcast show. My name is Omar Andreasen, aka Mr. Deed, and today we are very happy to have Mr. Alvin Day. So let me tell you a little bit about Mr. Day. He's actually internationally recognized. He's actually can't even talk anymore sometimes after doing so many of these. He's an internationally recognized leadership coach, keynote speaker, and author based right here in Florida, where I'm from. And as the executive director of the Global Empowerment Institute, he has delivered leadership training and executive coaching to top global brands, including Colgate, Campbell's, Valvoline, National Commercial Bank, the Central Bank of Jamaica, Pepsi, and Nestlé. With a career that spans North America, South America, Europe, Asia, and the Caribbean, and hoping to add space pretty soon, I threw that in there. Alvin has inspired business, government, and community leaders worldwide through his transformation seminars and dynamic speaking engagements. Alvin, thank you so much. And are you gonna go ahead and maybe start talking in space? Why not, man? You've done a lot, brother.
Thank you, Omar. I appreciate the opportunity to chat with you and your team. Yes, I have done a lot, and sometimes it makes it seem like I've been around for a long time. I have been doing my work for over 25 years after leaving Procter & Gamble and Bristol-Myers Squibb, but I'm still over 29. That's my age. I'm just over 29.
Yes, it's all in here, right? It's all right up here.
It's all in here. Absolutely. and that is a much more profound thought than the sort of greetings nature of this. There's so much in here that defines our life, our perception, and even our practical everyday encounters. And I have chosen to live on the notion that I'm still a kid, and it is wonderful.
I love that. I love that. And especially coming from two fathers. Yeah, I'm a kid sometimes, and I love that. And now I'm a coach, a softball coach, and I coach 6 and 8-year-olds. And you know what? Those little ones that I'm around, they keep me humble. They keep me young as well. So I completely understand where you're coming from when you said that. I appreciate you sharing that with us. All right, so let's go ahead and dive into some of these talking points so we can go ahead and get the listeners some much needed value. All right, so one of the things I want to talk about, I want to go into power and influence at the top. So what makes powerful leaders vulnerable and open to listening?
Yes, that's a particularly interesting question to me because especially for people who are in business, who set up their own shop and they need to approach important people to get contracts and authorization and so forth. It is really important for us to get a sense for what goes on in here in the minds of really senior leaders who make decisions that affect us. And I don't know that it's a surprise, but one of the most interesting facts I have come to find about really powerful people is that they're human. And I say that
Get out of here.
You know, as I grew up as a little boy and I saw people on the billboards and in magazines on TV, I, without even knowing it, thought of them as superhumans. These are guys at the top of the food chain. They're not like me. And growing up and going into industry, I took with me this notion that these are special people. Omar, I've been blessed with the opportunity to coach CEOs and senior executives, and I've come to realize that they're just kids in big bodies with a little bit more experience. And it helps me to be able to approach people without any fear at all of rank and position, because here's what I figure, and I've often said that to them. The most important person in this organization hierarchically and in terms of control and power, if he stubs his toe and blood comes out, can't hardly wear a shoe on that foot. The most important person who has a daughter who is 14 years old, dating a guy whose pants come down to here and who smokes things not sold in stores, and who came home last night at 3:00 a.m. When that important person goes to work, this here is seeing just the daughter. In other words, you don't just go to work and do your stuff because you're an expert and because you're a senior guy or woman. Your child, your personal life, your emotional state affects you. And if you don't have the tools, you can't even express that importance. And so when I realized that, oh, they're just like me. They all use the bathroom like I do. I lost all my fear. And it really helps us, to, I think, in business to recognize that powerful people are just with title and position. They're human.
The everything you said was just very powerful and very humbling. I remember my very first time being a manager, and I was young, and I think it's one of those that kind of gets to your head when you get given a title of power of somehow, and especially if you're not mature enough just yet mentally. And I remember one of the employees, he said this to me, and I'm glad he did, and it sticks with me forever. I put my pants on the same way you do. And I looked at him, I said, you know what? You're 100% correct, and I apologize. Because sometimes we forget that. I
Yeah,
mean, everything that you said, you hit the nail on the head. We're human. We all deal through the same emotions. We all deal with the same problems. Sometime within our life, as we're growing, we're gonna deal pretty much with the same issues. So it's I don't know, man. You know what you said, just kind of, goddamn, that you're 100% correct, amazingly correct, and we're all going to deal with that. But as long as we go in there, when we talk to these people that are high up, then I think we just need to find that, remember that wonder human, and number two, find that connection
that's correct.
that we
Yeah,
have possibly with that person, whether it's kids, sports, whatever it could be, school that you went to, and then from there, work on the connection, work on the relationship first.
yeah.
If that makes sense.
No, you're right. And it's not as though quote unquote powerful people don't have elevated egos. They do. And
Mhm.
sometimes they buy into the myth that they're different. But if you and I will study them, not just professionally, but where do they go on their clubs? What do they do to entertain themselves? What's their personal life a little bit like? What hurts them? What do they care about? When we get the legitimacy to get on that plane, because you can't just go tell some guy about his family, you have to
Yeah.
have the permission by association somehow. But when we get to the level where we can have conversations about things outside business, that person becomes more vulnerable and
Mhm.
more open and susceptible to your suggestions. So it's not a one-time thing where you look up the person on LinkedIn. No, it's if you're really interested in cracking the code with somebody who is influential, take your time, check that person out. Look, a big movie star, you want a TV contract, a massive movie star can get you there. Would it be helpful to know that person is scared stiff of spiders? You know, I mean,
So you saying if they're scared of spiders now, I want his role. Should I deliver some spiders over to his house?
yeah. Yeah. So the thing is, I know you're joking there, but the thing is, if you can somehow get into a conversation where you begin to think, to talk about spiders, that's going to be an interesting subject. You see what I'm saying? So you begin to
Yes.
work that connection, and if you can get access, things open up somewhat.
100% correct. And especially, so people always talk about real estate and how we're in sales. No, we're not in sales. What we do is very little that has to do with sales. The re About 95% of it, if not a little bit more, is about relationships and how to connect, how to solve a problem. So it's huge. So everything that you said, I have to say, but it's pretty much spot on. And now we are done with the show because that's all we needed to hear. I'm just messing. But man, that was just, I tell you what, that was probably so far out of all the shows we've done, that was probably the most powerful opening that I've
Mm,
had so far. And
mm.
thank you for that. That was
Thank
just
you.
absolutely amazing. All right, so let's move on. So now that we open up the doors heavily, let's talk about now unlocking the human potential. So why so many people, why would you, how do I ask this question? Why do so many people probably underachieve despite opportunities, would you say?
Yeah, yeah. That's one of the kind of sad things to observe about mankind. And I say mankind to be totally inclusive. I have come to believe, contrary to the way I grew up, that most people underachieve. And when I say underachieve, they even underachieve based upon their own expectations, their own knowledge of their abilities. And as we grow a little older, it's easy to get used to the status quo and make excuses. I didn't have a good teacher, or my family didn't teach me this. And then we settle and we operate pretty decently at a level where it's not too bad. But if we ever spend time thinking about our dreams, they make us very dissatisfied. And I have seen, Omar, a number of people who've said to me, Mr. Day, I'm reading all the motivational books and I'm doing all the things, everything I need to do, but I just can't break through, and they're frustrated and stuck. And I don't pretend that there's any one answer to your question. So I'll give you a couple of thoughts, my opinion. First of all, I think that every human being was born for greatness. Greatness is subjective. It's measured by expectations and realization. Okay. So I can make $40,000 a year and be a great, massive, highly fulfilled person. Why? Because I was growing up with no opportunity at all. Nobody in my family had money. And now I'm making $40,000 and I have my own apartment. Good gracious. You know how big that is compared to how I grew up? Or you can be a millionaire and not be fulfilled. So it's not so much about how much money you have, but I have seen people who have underachieved their own expectations. And one of the reasons is that the pain is not bad enough. The pain is not bad enough. We can tolerate. It's not so bad. I can wait till tomorrow. Look, I've got dinner today. Why go out today and work so hard? And sometimes it takes for us to get into deep crisis for us to commit ourselves to change. Yeah, I hate to refer to a cliche example, but it's like the frog in the warm water. We've all heard that story. It's just 1 degree more. It's not so bad. And slowly but surely, our life deteriorates. And now, when you have a high calling on your life, has a way of shocking you. I've seen people who have gotten into bad accidents and their lives turned around. I know a woman who was blinded and her life turned around. This is really amazing. And I'm not arguing that pain is a good thing here, but I know this woman who was a stripper, who was on drugs, who had really bad relationships, and someone threw some acid in her eyes and blinded her completely, which is a really sad story. And this woman went through incredible suffering. And out of that suffering, she decided that she was going to heal and forgive. And when she did and found the freedom, she started to inspire others and tell them her story. And people have come out of depression, come out of mediocrity, and find excellence because of her. Now, I use that example because sometimes the pain that we go through is constructive pain, because that pain shocks us to the reality that we have more to do in our lives and we can't afford to sit around and lead mediocre lives. So I suppose this answer is, one of the reasons is because the mediocre status quo is not so bad. It's okay. We can tolerate it.
I sit there and we talk about many times in the industry and also to like people that come on the team because real estate by far has probably one of the biggest dropout rates when it comes to the profession.
Yeah.
And there's so many things. If you want to be successful in real estate, you have to have a system. You have to be a special kind of person that does pretty much the same thing all the time. You have to have discipline. And one of the biggest things is like, what's your why?
Mm.
Because once you figure out what your why is, and you know what, and it might be, yeah, you figured it out, but like you said, did you really figure it out? Because there's been many times where, like you were talking about this woman here who had acid thrown in her eyes, but sooner or later something's gonna happen where it's something's gonna wake up within you. Hopefully, I hope it happens to everybody that's listening today, because it's one of those things. Because I love how you said we all have great potential. It's just how do we tap into it and when do we tap into it is is something that we can't help you do that. You have to do it on your own. You have to find out what that potential is and how to go at that, right?
Yeah, we can't do it for you. You have to do it. But if you surround yourself with the right people, you can get some catalysts and some stimulants and some disruptions that can help you make that decision. And that's a big crack there, a big opening.
Yeah, if you surround yourself around the people that are already hitting to where you want to be or aspire to be, then yeah, no, that makes sense. That makes sense. So now let's go into a different topic, the keys of lasting success. The three indispensable attributes for life and business. What would you say, in your opinion, those three indispensable attributes need to be for life and business to really power through or to call it a success?
Okay, so I like the number three. It balances out pretty nicely. Think. You use the word power through and you use the word success. If I would say, Omar, if you want to be a powerful human being who achieves success as you would define it. So we always say it's subjective, but yeah, as you would define success. The three things I think that must be addressed begin in a strange place. So you want the world to be a better place because of you. You want to be able to contribute to your family. You want to contribute to society. You want to get accolades and recognition. You want to go to bed feeling fulfilled that you've made a difference in the world. You want to die knowing that you leave a legacy behind. Yeah.
Yep.
I would be so bold as to say categorically, you cannot do it. You can't do it unless you cannot get to that level in your life where you change the world in a positive way and feel proud and successful for making a difference unless you first change yourself. It starts with you. And this is so basic from my head now, in my head, but so many times we miss that. And I never used to know that. In 1990 something, and again, I don't want to date myself because I'm just over 29. In about 1996, I've been on this path for a few decades. In 1996, I started talking about something that shocked me. I'm a frequent flyer. Right now, I have amassed 2.5 million frequent flyer miles on Delta. I am in Bangkok, Thailand, all over the place. South America, all over. Not now. Since the pandemic, I'm doing more at my desk, thank heavens. But I've amassed 2.5 million miles. I used to do 100,000 miles on JetBlue each year, just by that one airline. And yet, one day I was traveling and I got ready to sleep, and the lady in front of me started saying something that shocked me. She said, "Ladies and gentlemen, in the unlikely event that this aircraft should begin to lose pressure, a mask will fall from the compartment above you. If this should happen, reach out with both arms, grasp the nearest mask, put it over your nose and mouth, and begin to breathe normally." And then she said, "If you are traveling with a child or someone who needs assistance, put your own mask on first and then assist the other person." I thought to myself, wait a minute, isn't that egotism? Isn't that selfishness? Isn't that taking care of number one when you could help a child? And for 3 hours from Miami, from New York to Miami, I think it was, I could not get any rest because I began to think, wait a minute, what does that mean? Why is it that they have to do that before the plane gets off the ground? And here's what I've come up with. Until you can get off the ground toward your dreams to help other people, if you do not have oxygen in your lungs, you are of no good to them. It is not selfish to work on you, to invest in you, to go to extra classes, to pay for courses, to build yourself up on the inside, because it's only from your position of strength that you can help others. And the world is full of coaches who need to be coached. The world is full of teachers who need to be taught. The world is full of people who are imposing and authoritative, who don't even understand their own thoughts. I started talking about it, and I didn't originate it, it came on the airlines, but now it's a common thing that I just want to remind people about. If you want to be successful in the world, work on you before you work on the world. Because even if the child has had to wait for you to get oxygen in your lungs and the child passes out next to you, you can resuscitate the child because you have life in your lungs. Even if your family says, "Who do you think you are? You don't spend time with us anymore. You don't come to Sunday dinners anymore. And you have to go off and study, or you have to go off to that course on the weekends." One day you can come back and help the very same family members who have not yet developed themselves by giving them vision, giving them a way to make money, giving them a way to stay healthy. It's a really amazing thing to know that it is not selfish to stop everything and work on you so that you can have more to contribute in the future. So that's one. And I don't know if you want to jump in there, but a couple others occur to me. Your thoughts?
Yeah, on that one, the two things I thought about. Number one, Michael Jackson's song, Man in the Mirror. Love that song. One of my favorite performers of all time. And everything that you're speaking is true, because even in the song you said if you want the better world to take place, then look at yourself and make the change. So, and that's exactly what you said. And then going back to what you just said about about being on the flight as well. Yeah, because if you can't take care of yourself first, then how in the hell are you supposed to take care of anyone else around you?
Exactly.
Right. So that's my point on that. Go ahead with the other two. Because
Right.
so far, I love point one. Can't wait for point two and three.
Okay. So now, you can develop yourself and be so strong and so self-assertive and so confident that you get cocky. But here's what stops you. you can't truly be successful all by yourself with nobody around. Imagine that you were a billionaire living on a deserted island where people can't even get there. They don't even know you exist. You have all the money in the world. How would you measure your success? How can you be successful without other people? Other people whom you can influence, other people who can validate you, other people who can recognize you, who can leverage your skills. And so, if you're going to be successful in any business, it is important to know how to connect with other human beings. Now, that seems like a simple thing, but let me ask this question. If you're in business for yourself or you're working a job, do you understand personality types and temperaments? How people are wired temperamentally that give them certain tendencies to react and to need you to communicate with them a certain way? Do you know how to persuade people? Do you understand the buttons to push so that people will want to say yes to you, not need to say yes to you? In other words, are you selling to what people need or are you selling to what people want? Do you understand the dynamics of desires and emotions that cause people to make decisions? Omar, I have a piece of research from the Gallup organization on my desk here somewhere. It's in the folder. Gallup is a scientific research organization, right? They're not psychology today. And here's what they say. Human decisions are constituted 70% of feelings and 30% of facts. And I'm sitting there going, you gotta be kidding me. 70% of feelings. So the question is, do we understand human emotions? To anticipate reactions, to swing with the emotions, and be able to connect with people and influence them. Because until we do, we're going to be a desert island success with nobody to know or care. And so the skills of interpersonal communication and persuasion and understanding feelings and emotions and personalities is a critical one. You want to sell a house? How well do you understand the emotions of the husband in a husband and wife team? Most of us focus on the woman. But what does the husband feel and think, and what role does the husband play in the decision? And of course, the woman. And what about the kids? And when it comes to pricing, how do they think about this? How do you communicate something difficult to people so that they at least are open to you? And that skill is really hard to come by unless you work on it directly. So that's my number two.
You know, thinking about that number two, I remember when I started the real estate industry, and I remember one of my first hires. I remember talking to my coach about this, and I was like, talking about my admin at the time, and I'm like, man, you know what? She's just not cutting it, this, that, and the other, blah, 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 blah. And he said, let me stop you at a moment. I'm like, what's that? He goes, it's not her, it's you. I'm like, what? He said, understand that the reason why this person is not performing the way they are is like you're their leader. So more than likely, you did not put the communication so clear or the instruction so clear that they understand how or to or why. And that really that still sticks with me now today. Because now, you know, we have three different people that work for us, that work with us. And every single time something happens, I apologize to me. I said, you know what? My apologies. Let's do some more training on this because it was my fault because my communication was not clear enough. So let's retrain on this again and let me know if you're not understanding, so then I can make sure that I dive further into it. And
Yeah.
that's changed the way I communicate with people now. Even if that person's probably late or whatnot, then I'm like, I'm sorry, it's my fault because maybe I didn't communicate it clearly to you. So I apologize.
Yeah, and you're so right. When we take ourselves off the totem pole, like we're the boss and we're the ones in charge, we then get to the level where others are and they can trust us more. We have greater credibility. Omar, I have the opportunity to be coaching very senior executives. And I remember one guy who was second in command in this massive organization, and he had trouble with his people. His people were not engaged, they hated him and so forth. And so he told me I was. And it happened a few days ago. And I said, okay, let me share something with you. And the reason I'm saying this to you is that there are lots of tools. One of them is taking the blame. Another one is using the vulnerability strategy and so forth. And I said, let me share with you this vulnerability strategy. A little bit of it is this. I gave him the language. I said, put him in a room and help them understand what happened in the meeting. And then I want you to take the blame that you didn't stay close enough to the process. You didn't help them to understand exactly what to look for, and that you're going to have to work harder when you give them projects in the future. He said, Alvin, that doesn't make any sense. I said, okay, try it. Here's the basis for it. That which you do not resist cannot resist you. Now, it may seem simplistic. But if you're pushing something that's not resisting you, if you're pushing something, it'll resist you. But if you're not pushing, there's no resistance. So we resist so much that people develop a reaction to us that is contrary to what we want. I said, don't resist them. Be part of them. And he said, I'm not so sure. Guess what? He went away and did it and came back and he was shocked. He said, when I told them it was my fault, they literally said to me, no, boss, it's our fault. We should have done this. We should have done that. He said, it's the most amazing thing because I would never have expected that. I thought that by taking the blame, it would belittle me. No, it highlighted the role that they played in all of this. So I'm saying to you that there are lots of tactics and strategies that I have discovered that will help, that have helped people to be more influential. And it's usually not force, coercion, leveraging authority or rank or title. And that's the thing that is very different from how we're taught in schools.
No, 100%.
Yeah. Okay. So, all right.
All right,
So
what's the third one?
Yeah, number 3 is, with all the personal development and all the communication skills and understanding, we need to have some basic business savvy in whatever we do. Now, you may not do an MBA or go to school to study business. You may be a doctor trying to get more clients. You may be a realtor trying to sell more houses, but some basic business savvy is necessary. We need to work on our craft. And obviously, there's so many business strategies. I don't pretend to give you sufficient substance here, but there's some basic business savvy that says things like the following. Okay, here, you have value. I hope you believe that. And I'm talking to anybody who might listen now. You have value. But there's a difference in value. There's intrinsic value, which means your worth, your capabilities, what you have to offer to the world. There's also basic business value, like the nature of a house, how it's constructed, the materials in it, and all the things that go into making the house a wonderful structure. But that's not enough to get people to want to be on your side or to desire the thing that you are selling. There is economic value. And this is what people will pay money for. We have to learn the craft of converting intrinsic value to economic value so that people will pay us to get our intrinsic value. Now, I hope you can follow this. So I am an MBA or I'm a PhD. I know stuff. Yeah, but how do I get people to want to buy my stuff? I have to understand their desires. I have to understand what it does for them emotionally. I have to understand their aspirations and figure out how I can attach my intrinsic value to their aspirations. So that's one item. One item is, you may be important, but people may not care to be around you. The house may be the best made. It may be even the best investment. But if you cannot articulate the economic value that it represents, people just bypass it. And so there are skills that you develop to say, what is the language that I use? The language starts with understanding what the client needs, not what needs, but wants, how the client feels, what's the client's experience. And then you can say, look, this is a great house. You and I can agree on that. What's really good about this house? When you live here, it's going to make you feel like you paid twice as much for it. Why? Look at the neighborhood. Look at the access to the freeways. Look at the way the people behave. You never have to worry about cars being broken down and left on the side of the street. And when you invite your friends to come to a party, you're going to feel pretty good about the fact that you live here. Your children are going to be safe and so forth. Now, these are not necessarily new things to realtors, but the idea is that when we begin to focus on the emotional connection and people desire that emotional connection, they begin to say, yeah, that's good. And then they're much more likely to want to pay money for it. That's one business savvy. And then I suppose another one, which is also very elementary, is never forget that business is all about supply and demand. How basic can it get? But when we remember this, we begin to ask the right question. What is the demand for my service? What is the demand for me, for who I am? And oh, by the way, what is the competition? How much competition is there? And once you can figure out what the demand is for what you offer, once you frame it properly so it has economic value and how much competition there is, then it helps you to come to price, because price is a representation of all of this. So my attempt here, Omar, is not to give people a lesson in business, but to say, study business, study how it works, study what makes it roll. And then when you have personal development and you understand people, now you can use your skills to satisfy people's desires and sell them and persuade them to go in the direction that benefits both of you.
Taking it all in. No, 100%. Like you said, when it comes to the profession or whatever it is that you're doing that you decide that's going to be your career or job, there's always something that you can learn to take you to that next level. And that's going to make you stand out even more and than anybody else. But you're the one who has to push yourself to that. And one of the things that I always hear, especially from real estate agents, is I don't like doing open houses, or I don't like doing this, and I don't like doing that. I'm like, I said, understand you. I understand you don't like it, but maybe this isn't the path for you because there's certain things you have to do. Number one, in real estate, no, in real estate in life, communication has to be crystal clear almost, right? So the better you communicate, the more successful you're going to be no matter what you do. And one of the reasons why I tell people why you should do open houses is because you're getting more at bats and more people coming in, and you're learning how to talk to people, how to express, practicing your skill of communication and description, which is huge. That will help you not only in the real estate world, but also too within real life, whether you have kids, when you get married, whatever it may be, because it's going to help you express yourself
Yeah,
in a way
sure.
that maybe won't be so offensive
Right.
in a way.
And that is a function of beginning by working on yourself, isn't it?
Correct. Yeah.
And then understanding others. So, yeah, let's put the 3 points together then, in a sense. I have my world is working with big corporate, Fortune 500 companies, multinationals. But lately, I have been coaching small groups of entrepreneurs, business people, coaches even, and giving them one by one attention. And I had a lawyer.
All the way through. So one of the things that I was going to kind of started thinking about is because then you were talking about the attorney who just didn't really have trust within herself, right? She was doubting herself.
Right.
So when it comes to somebody like that, what's your best advice for those people that maybe they're always, maybe something like that's always running through their head and it's just they're stuck with that feeling? What is the best advice as a professional coach that you can tell a person like that to help them start breaking out of that?
Yes, there is no single answer to that question, but the direction is exactly right. Somebody needs to be speaking into that person's life, into that person's mind, because you cannot change yourself by yourself from the inside, because the way you are is the outgrowth of what's inside, your thinking, your thoughts, your perceptions. And you don't just become better by becoming older. There are a lot of people who
Mm,
get old and they just become ossified and set in their ways and they never change. So the person actually needs to go connect with other people and other information. And I would say to people, get a coach in whom you believe and one who believes in you. And it's not a reflection on you and stuff you don't know, because even the superstars have coach. The only two people I admire in sports, because I'm not a sports fanatic. If I'm not playing, I don't want to watch it almost, are Usain Bolt and Michael Jordan. And Michael Jordan, for me, is the best that who ever existed in basketball. And yet he had a coach. Now, his coach could not play basketball as well as he could. That's interesting. Why would you listen to somebody who doesn't have the skills, technical skills that you can? And the answer is because there are different skill sets. The ability to have the instinct to jump and throw a ball, stick your tongue out and fool people on the court is a different skill set from being able to see the map and design the pathway and the strategy and make the calls before they happen. And so you may be really good and think you don't need a coach, but you need something of a different sort of skills from you, somebody who looks at you and sees your potential, sees the errors that you're making, sees the distance where you can go to find your greatest fulfillment. So I would say I would recommend strongly that such a person get coaching. That is not just some programmatic thing, but that's personalized. The other thought would be to go through some assessments. And I have in my books and the courses some assessment tools that ask you about yourself to help you contend with who you are, what your preferences are, what your talents are, how you react to pressure, and so forth, so that you can start to zero in on who you are and decide where you want to go from there. So, again, it's not a simple answer, but too many people don't bother with this stuff. And they just continue in the way in which they are and expect a different result.
I've actually read the book, both of the books that Michael Jordan's coach has written,
Yeah.
and they're amazing books. Amazing. And because he also coached Kobe as well. And he was saying how, and what I loved in that, in the book, in the description, he was saying why Kobe was so great and why Michael Jordan was so great. And just
Mhm.
the mental capacity. He coached some amazing people, what Dwayne Wade as well. I remember he was talking about Dwayne Wade in the book. And listen, when it comes down to certain mental capacity and this and the mental strength that those three athletes that he pointed out in that book, it was that they had, it was just, he said it was just almost superhuman. And he humbled himself because he's like, what am I doing here in this stage with these gentlemen? Because obviously Michael Jordan was his first client. And I think you said it perfectly. It's he had a different skill that Michael Jordan did not.
Oh, by the way, yeah, sorry to jump in there because
Go
you're
ahead.
triggering all kinds of lights going off here. Just in case anybody misunderstands this, the argument here is not that you be a superhuman as skillful as a Michael Jordan or a Scottie Pippen. That's not the message. Part of the message is even though they were superhuman, it's easy to find photographs where Michael Jackson is so far up in the space that you swear that he's up in the rafters. How could he get that far? It's not that you become a superhuman, but even the people who have that superhuman skill, if they can need a coach, what say you and me? Okay? That's one implication. And tell me if you agree with these, please. The other implication is that irrespective of who we are, there's something about us that is either genius or tends toward genius. Now, you may not play basketball like Michael Jordan. Maybe you can cook in such a way where people just lick their fingers on their toes after eating your food. Maybe you can run numbers in your head in such a way where it makes the calculator looks rudimentary. Whatever your skill is, if you had the guidance and the focus to go work on that skill, you too can demonstrate some genius. But in order for you to get there and actually believe that, it's necessary to have somebody who can speak into your life and see it, like a Phil Jackson can see things before they happen and therefore draw a map. So I wanted to jump in there. Forgive me interrupting, but I know people can latch onto what we're saying and not get the right message. But would you agree you don't have to be superhuman and that everybody has some talent that can be exploited?
100%. I think, and you hit everything on the head. Yes, because you know what? There's always something within us, but it's that we might not be able to get it out or tap into it, but then there's somebody else that has that superhuman power that knows that gets to learn who you are, know who you are, and how to tap that little thing that you have inside that you never knew how to tap into. That person will.
That you take for granted. So there was a young lady, and I love to tell stories because theories are theories. There was a young lady in our group, in our small group coaching, and she said she gave up. We said, "What do you mean by gave up?" She said, "I can't get a job. It's been over a year. I'm pretty smart. I've gone to school. Can't get a job." And the nurturing environment of that small community caused someone to say to her, "Have you ever thought about going into radio? You have a wonderful voice." She said that. And the group pushed her, and she went and applied to a media company. This woman today is a national star. Every day, millions of people hear her voice. They recognize her on the street. She literally is a star because somebody saw something in her that she took for granted. She had this wonderful low tone, calming voice. It was proper, it was articulate, and she never thought it was anything. And so the thought is if you find somebody who's underachieving, what do? You surround them with people who believe in them. You find people who can see things they can't see, who have different skill sets. And I see that happen all the time. It's just remarkable.
That's a great story. I love that. Yeah,
Yeah.
and of course, and like you said. How many times do people say other people can read you better than you could read yourself? Because sometimes, or like even when you're in a relationship, everyone can see the tall tales of the relationship going wrong, but you, since you can't see because you're not outside of yourself, you almost have that tunnel vision, right?
Yes. Yeah, no, I was just thinking of the need sometimes to be dramatic and to disrupt people's thinking, which is part of the Phil Jackson scale, not the Michael Jordan scale. I had a CEO and a chief operating officer, two people running a company who were at odds, and they were quarreling, and they made their people know about it. So the whole company was divided. I'm for him, I'm for her. And this is necessary for folks to do what you just said a while ago, Umar. I called them up to the front of the room and I said, I won't embarrass you. I won't embarrass you, please, because they're the power brokers in the room and their team was there. And I said, I want you to look down and tell me if you can see the tip of your nose. And okay. And said, yeah, I can see the tip of my nose. And I said, now I want you to look down and see if you can see your bottom lip. And I said, no. I said, no, try. And they made some funny things. And the crowd laughed, group laughed. I can see my bottom lip. And I can say, and then I said, can you see the back of your head? I said, no. I said, but it's your head. Yeah, but it's behind me. Okay, great. Let me help you. And I gave each one a mirror. And I said, can you see the back of your head? And said, no. Every time I turn my head, it disappears. And I said, let me give you another mirror. And of course, the woman got it first, okay? They're used to doing the hair thing. And the woman triangulated and got the mirror and said, yeah, I see the back of my head. And the guy finally figured out, yes, I see the back of my head. And here's the message to anybody listening to our conversation today, Omar. You think you know you, and you do, but you only know you from the inside. You do not have 360 view of who you are, how you are, what you are, until you can listen to the environment and hear from people and get feedback. You could be the most sexy dressed woman walking out of that toilet in the bar with toilet paper, 6 feet of toilet paper dragging behind you, and think people are looking at you because you're sexy and they're looking at you because of how ridiculous you are. You know that whole story, right?
Yeah.
The point of the matter is, I ask you the question, do you know you? I hope you don't say yes 100%. Because there are things about you that are wonderful that you cannot see, that you take for granted. And maybe there are a few habits that you need to get rid of. And that's why getting somebody to coach you whom you trust is so critical, because he can light you up to learn that you could be a star on the radio with that same voice you've taken for granted for the whole lifetime up to this point. Yeah?
Nah, that's an amazing point and very well said. Very well
Yeah.
said. So, two things. Number one, the Better Life movement. What is that? So, is that someone that anybody listening can join? Is because it seems like it's a community of dedicated to empowering people to succeed in business and life. Is it like a group coaching thing? Is it a newsletter kind of thing? What is it exactly?
Yes, thank you for asking. The newsletter thing is a platform using School, Skool, which is a wonderful platform. And what's happened is I have gotten frustrated, our company, we've gotten frustrated because we get such wonderful accolades and feedback and evaluation from our corporate clients. It is normal for me to hand out a feedback form and get 4.9 out of 5. I was at the Valvoline company, handed out this thing to a group of 10 people. I was teaching public speaking and presentation skills to. I've never seen, I think one other time. And 100% of them, every single one gave a 5 out of 5 and comments like crazy. And you think that would boost my ego, and I felt really good, but it made me really frustrated. How many people in the world need and want to have this skill, but they don't have access to a Valvoline who will pay for them to go to this seminar over 2 days? How many people in the world would just love to have access to this thing that makes them rich, confident, articulate, get standing ovation? When I see the success that we've had for over 25 years in corporate, and people come to me and say, I want to come to one of your seminars, I have to say, no, I can't take you into the boardroom. This is a central bank. So now I'm lit up about this. I hope you can tell. With the help of some really expert people, I am now taking everything that I have learned in the 25 plus years and breaking it down into bite-sized chunks and presenting it on this platform to build a better life by learning how to manage your own growth and development, to connect with people, to understand some business savvy. And folks are, frankly, we're in the process of launching it. We haven't even launched it yet, but folks are hearing about this and just jumping on and going, no, I want to be part of this. So that's what it is. It is videos, it's audios, it is written information, it is dynamic, multifaceted ways of learning how to understand yourself, personality types, communicate with people, how to understand the vulnerability strategy, how to get people to say yes to you, how to do public speaking. Let's get a hold of this. Get a hold of this, Omar. We're really good at public speaking because that's what we do. But have you learned to master the messenger, the message, the method, the medium, and the money making of public speaking? We have a 30-day challenge that helps people to get to comfort in speaking on camera and speaking live. So that's what it is. We keep putting more and more information there to get people the power to get to another level personally, emotionally, and economically, making money.
So if someone like add me to the list, but so I see here school, so Global Empowerment Institute. So I'm assuming if that's that link right there. So if we put that link on here, people can click on that and then say, "Hey, I'm standing in line. I want to be involved." Is that correct?
Yes. In fact, the good news is that you will have a chance to be in this for 7 days and access everything that we have without paying. And if day seven comes up or six comes up and you don't want it, you can just say, no, I don't want any more of it. So unlike something that you have to buy in a bag, you can get in the bag for free and take anything you want out of it. So I encourage folks who have this hunger to become more, to check this out, because it's not, let me tell you what to expect there. This is not going to be something where we tell you what to do, tell you what to do. We're going to mess with your thinking. We're going to disrupt your thinking. We're going to shatter some myths. We're going to give you things that don't seem to make sense intuitively. For example, pain is a good thing if you know how to manage it. Okay, you can extract things out of pain that most people run away from. Like, for example, you are actually blind until you notice that you're blind. Look, Omar, I can prove, I shouldn't say I can, I have proved to audiences all over the world that 90% of the people in the room, sometimes 97, are blind. And if I should hold my hand up here in a metaphorical way, they couldn't even see it. There are things that are obvious that people don't see because of how we were brought up. And when I say this, people are like, yeah, right. I said, can I prove it? And I prove it to them and they realize, oh my gosh, how come I didn't see that? It's not a trick, it's real. And so what I'm saying to you is that what you can expect is for some really disruptive things to grab your attention and go, I need to fix this. And I can be much better. Yeah, I have fun watching that unfold.
All
And
right,
by
well,
the way,
yeah.
in addition to that, there are live sessions. It's extremely affordable at the start. It's going to be a few $100s, but because we're in the process of launching it, it's people get a chance to be grandfathered in. But it even includes live sessions where people can interact with the leaders, including myself, and get personal questions and comments addressed.
Awesome. You definitely just got somebody else. I'll definitely be joining. All right.
Awesome.
One last question. Ask this to everybody. So if you just can leave just one deed behind, one action, mindset, or even a lesson for every single person listening today, what would it be?
Okay, as you speak, one thing jumps to mind, and maybe that's because that's it. I ask you the question, and I say you collectively here. For every individual in the group, do you want to earn more? And if the answer is yes, then you cannot do it unless you achieve more. Because one way or the other, we live in a meritocracy. Now, it may not be fast, it may not be efficient, but we live in a meritocracy. We are paid based upon our contribution to the entity that pays us. So you cannot earn more sustainably. You can win the lottery, but sustainably, you cannot earn more unless you first achieve more. Many people want to get a raise at the end of the year because it's the end of the year, but very few people ask, what have I done this year that's more than I did last year so that I deserve to get a raise? Okay, so you have to achieve more. But here's the worst news. You cannot sustainably achieve more unless you first become more. Because truth be told, it's not what you know that makes you valuable. It's who you are that makes you valuable. And you are in an embryonic stage every day to develop and to grow. I have this book called If Caterpillars Can Fly, So Can I. It's the first book I've ever written, and it's the biggest book I've ever written. If Caterpillars Can Fly, So Can I contends that we, like a caterpillar, were born with the potential to grow wings and soar to the next level in our existence. And you cannot achieve more sustainably staying at the same level where you are today. You have to work on yourself. You have to invest in yourself. You have to take some of that money you earn and buy courses and go to places where you can be a part of a conference and join groups and so forth, so that you begin to surround yourself with people who can inspire you and who can pull you up to where they are. If you want to earn more, you must become more. And to become more, you must invest in yourself.
Mr. Days, this has been absolutely powerful. And I know one thing, we definitely want to make sure that we reschedule you here because there's so many more questions that I have. And I'm sure there's so much more insight and wisdom that we can get as well as a collective. But you've been absolutely amazing. Want to
Way
thank
to
you so much for taking time out of your busy schedule to be with us here today. And definitely, you dropped us more than nuggets. You pretty much just dropped an atomic bomb on us. And I definitely want to make sure that we bring you back so we can have some more of that. That's for sure. But
I'm looking
guys,
forward to it.
thank you. Thank you. Guys, listen, we really hope that you enjoyed this episode of the Mr. Deed podcast. Please remember, action builds empire. Stay focused, stay hungry, and sometimes you just got to give life a whammo. I'm Omar Andreasen. Thank you so much for tuning in to the Mr. Deeds podcast show. Take care. This is Omar Andreasen signing off and reminding you that success in real estate and in life is built one deed at a time. Until next time, keep it real, stay sharp, and don't forget to give life a big whammo and keep moving forward.